Imagine a world not unlike our own, teeming with life. A vibrant, thriving planet, home to countless creatures, both great and small. Now, imagine it all frozen solid. This isn't a science fiction movie. It's a chapter from Earth's own dramatic history, a time when our world transformed into a giant snowball and nearly all life vanished into the ice. This is the story of the Great Dying, the planet's most severe extinction event during an epoch of unimaginable cold. Our story begins about 700 million years ago in the Cryogenian period. Earth was a different place, but life was flourishing in the oceans. The first complex organisms were beginning to stir strange, soft-bodied creatures unlike anything we know today. Algae carpeted the shallows, painting the seas in shades of green and brown, pumping oxygen into the atmosphere and setting the stage for life to come. The world was ancient, but it was alive. Then, something went catastrophically wrong. Scientists believe a perfect storm of geological events began to unfold. Massive volcanic eruptions, not of lava, but of rock and dust, may have blanketed the atmosphere, reflecting sunlight away from the Earth's surface. At the same time, the continents were clustered near the equator. As rock weathers, it pulls carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, out of the air. With so much land in the warm, wet tropics, this process went into overdrive, thinning the Earth's protective climate blanket. Slowly at first, then with gathering speed, the planet began to cool. The polar ice caps, once distant and contained, started to creep downwards. Year by year, the line of frost advanced. Summers grew shorter, winters longer and more brutal. A planetary chill set in. The change was subtle in the beginning, an extra frost, a slightly colder sea. The creatures of the Cryogenian had no idea their world was on the brink of an apocalypse. Imagine the sky turning a permanent, hazy gray. The sun, once a source of warmth and life, becomes a distant, pale disk, its heat unable to pierce the thickening atmospheric haze. Snow, once a seasonal visitor, began to fall and never melt. Glaciers, born in the mountains, flowed down like frozen rivers, consuming forests and plains. The world was being painted white. For the life in the oceans, the change was terrifying. The surface waters, where sunlight fueled the entire food web, began to freeze. A crust of ice spread across the seas, starting at the poles and relentlessly marching toward the equator. It was like a shutter closing over the world, plunging the ocean depths into an endless, starlit night. Photosynthesis ground to a halt. The base of the food chain collapsed. We see a world encased in ice. Mile-thick glaciers grind across the continents, scraping the land down to bedrock. The oceans are sealed beneath a sheet of ice, perhaps half a mile thick in places. Earth, seen from space, is a gleaming white orb, a ghost planet reflecting the light of a powerless sun. It is a world in suspended animation, silent and profoundly still. The symphony of life has ceased. But beneath the ice, in the crushing dark, a desperate struggle for survival was underway. Life is tenacious. It clings to existence in the most extreme environments. Near volcanic vents on the ocean floor, where the planet's inner heat still bled into the water, small pockets of liquid ocean may have persisted. Here, in these oases of warmth and chemical energy, life held on. Strange microbes, feeding not on sunlight but on sulfur and minerals, became the sole keepers of life's flame. Imagine the pressure, the absolute darkness, the crushing cold just beyond these tiny refuges. For millions of years, this was the state of life on Earth. A few hardy survivors clustered around volcanic lifelines, waiting in a frozen tomb. The complex organisms that had just begun to evolve, the soft-bodied wonders of the pre-Cambrian seas, were almost entirely wiped out. Up to 90% of all life on Earth is thought to have vanished. It was an extinction event that makes the one that killed the dinosaurs look minor. For tens of millions of years, the Earth remained a snowball. It seemed this frozen state could be permanent. What could possibly break such an icy grip? The answer, ironically, came from the same force that may have helped trigger the deep freeze: volcanoes. While the surface was frozen, Earth's core remained a molten furnace. Volcanoes continued to erupt, punching through the ice sheets. But now, there were no oceans or weathering rocks to absorb the carbon dioxide they pumped out. For millions of years, CO2 and other greenhouse gases steadily accumulated in the atmosphere, trapped beneath the icy ceiling. A planetary pressure cooker was building. Eventually, a tipping point was reached. The concentration of greenhouse gases became so high that it began to overwhelm the ice's reflective power. A thaw began. It would have been the most violent, dramatic climate shift the planet has ever known. As the ice near the equator began to melt, it exposed darker ocean and rock, which absorbed more sunlight, which in turn melted more ice. A runaway feedback loop was triggered in the opposite direction. The Great Thaw, known as a hothouse event, was as extreme as the freeze that preceded it. Temperatures may have soared. The melting of the glaciers would have released a massive pulse of nutrient-rich meltwater into the oceans. After millions of years of starvation, the seas were suddenly flooded with the minerals and ingredients for life. And into this new, revitalized world, the survivors emerged. The microbes that had clung to life in the deep sea vents now found an entire planet open for business. The few species of algae that survived in cracks in the ice or small meltwater pools began to bloom on an unprecedented scale. The world's oceans turned green again. This massive algal bloom pumped enormous amounts of oxygen into the atmosphere, more than ever before. The stage was now set for a biological revolution. The survivors of the Great Freeze found themselves in a world rich in oxygen and nutrients, a world with countless empty niches waiting to be filled. This is what scientists call the Cambrian explosion. In the geological blink of an eye following the end of the snowball Earth, life didn't just recover. It erupted with creativity. All the major animal body plans we see today appeared in a frenzy of evolutionary innovation. Trilobites, bizarre arthropods, the first vertebrates, our own distant ancestors, all appeared in this incredible aftermath. The apocalypse of ice had acted as a planetary reset button. It wiped the slate clean, clearing away the old forms of life and creating the conditions for something new and spectacular to arise. The immense pressure of the extinction event forced life to become more resilient, more complex, and ultimately, more magnificent. So when we look at the incredible diversity of life on Earth today, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, we are looking at the descendants of the survivors. We are the children of the Great Thaw. Our existence is owed to the few who held on through the longest, darkest winter the world has ever known. The story of Snowball Earth is not just a tale of destruction. It's a profound story of resilience and the unstoppable, creative power of life itself. It's a reminder that even after the most devastating endings, there can be spectacular new beginnings. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story of our planet's past as fascinating as we do, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the epic history of Earth. We'll see you next time.